Greetings to you from the United Nations Environment Program Africa Office. But before I start, please give a round of applause to Nasarawa State University, KEFI, for the excellent, wonderful work that they are doing. They are showcasing to the entire world, not only African continent, but to the entire world, that solutions are devised, and those solutions turn challenges to opportunities, and those solutions also need to be seized. That's what you are demonstrating. When I was driving down here today, been driven down here today, this thought came to my mind, and the thought is about what we usually hear, that good things don't hide. I was thinking where this thought came from, because I've heard this for quite a very long time, and I noticed it came from witness. So I am here as a witness to the excellent work that the university is doing, but let me just put this in perspective, because we are discussing about climatepreneurship and environment here today. The environment is national security. The environment is food security. The environment is health. The environment is economic prosperity. The environment is justice. Why do I say this? A story is told of a rich man in a community who invited his fellow friends and their families to the wedding ceremony of his elder son, anticipating that there would be many people who are going to attend this event. He put his best foot forward. And he put his best foot forward to ensure that this event can be planned and executed with effectiveness. On that day of the wedding, none of the people who were invited showed up to this event. He had spent so much, yet those he thought deserved his honor disappointed him. And he faced a significant loss. He faced a significant loss in the food that has been prepared, in the money that has been spent. Disappointed, he ordered his servants to go out in the village and street and get everybody, including the poor, the hungry, that no one cares for, and invited them to be his guests at the wedding. The ruler was pleased to see that he had made a good decision, and that those he thought did not deserve him were the right people to dine with him, because the field is his. They brought laughter and they also brought happiness. He was happy that he had learned something, and that something is in two words: real impact. Real impact occurs when efforts are targeted. Gentlemen, while this parable that I've just presented, paraphrased here to you today, applies to other occasions, its core principle underpins climate action entrepreneurship. It's about making climate action meaningful and impactful to everyone in the community in which we live in today. Because climate change is no longer an abstract issue. We are seeing droughts and floods. We are witnessing this impact across the entire African continent. These impacts are happening in the continent in which we live in today, that holds 65% of uncultivated arable land. But yet, 257 million Africans go to bed hungry. These impacts of climate change are happening in the continent where we live in, where we have 50% of all the food that is produced each and every year lost as post-harvest losses. And this is costing the continent $48 billion each and every year. And as this is happening, the continent is importing food worth $35 billion and projected to reach $110 billion in less than 3 years from today. And all these losses we see, as 257 million people go to bed hungry, can actually be addressed in a continent that have 365 days of sunshine. Decentralizing just simple solar dryers, which are climate action solutions, to power value addition, can tap a total African market worth $150 billion each and every year. But this is an opportunity that is not being tapped. This stream of losses that are enumerated here today stems from unsustainable consumption patterns that have spiraled into three aspects climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution and waste, what we formally call the triple planetary crisis. But devising solutions to these interrelated environmental challenges underpins environment and climate actionpreneurship, which Nasarawa State University have taken the lead for the entire world to see. It is the call to unlocking opportunities right here in Nigeria, across the entire African continent and the entire world. For example, when you take pollution, for example, Nigeria generates an estimated over 500,000 tons of plastics each and every year, which further degrades the environment. However, what the data is showing is that 12% of these plastics are recycled. Recycling and reusing plastics in Nigeria can generate up to $500 per ton in enterprise opportunities. And this can create millions of jobs. And if the country was to recycle the 500,000 tons of plastics, a 250 million a year industry would be added to the Nigerian economy. On another level, across the entire continent today, these statistics that I'm mentioning here are not just mere statistics. 700,000 Africans die each and every year because of indoor pollution. These are our mothers and fathers, our brothers and sisters, and they've committed no crime. The only thing that makes them to die is because they don't have an alternative. They depend on charcoal because there's no alternative. And they're losing their life. And when you dovetail that down to Nigeria here, up to 218,000 Nigerian lives every year cost because of indoor pollution. Devising alternative cooking is no longer an option. Alternative cooking solutions could tap into over $70 million in annual market opportunities. Then there is climate change, which we've already heard. The elephant in the room. Yes, it is the elephant in the room because as we're speaking today, this climate change is costing African economies as we speak today. It's not a distant issue, it is with us. It's costing the economies of Africa every year $20 billion. But in no sector are these losses as high as they are in the food sector. While climate change, as I said, lowers yields on the one hand, lack of value addition is a problem in the continent. It means that even every little food that we produce, 3/4 of it is lost. And if we continuously encroaching and destroying our ecosystems, cutting down our forests, we are only increasing the post-harvest losses, and that is not solving the problem. This scenario of losses replaced across the continent, but when you bring it to Nigeria here, the Nigerian economy loses up to $400 billion in annual income opportunities because of inadequate agro-value addition. To elaborate further, the country is the largest cassava producer globally. And as we know, cassava is a climate resilient crop. I call cassava Africa's insurance crop, Africa's hidden gold, which is untapped. Can you imagine that the cassava food that we depend on, the market is worth $23 billion. Can you imagine that you can produce up to 300 diverse products just from cassava? Can you imagine that sorghum, millet, under the changing climate, the data is showing that those crops are going to fail, but cassava will not. Cassava will not. However, this high-value crop has not been adopted as Africa's strategic food reserve crop. This center is an opportunity to lead this continent. But simple solar dryers can't reverse this as they have been showcased. Decentralizing this can be able to reverse and reduce this post-harvest loss by up to 30%. And fully maximizing the entire agro-value chain of cassava can create jobs and generate opportunities. As we're speaking today, the world is faced with multiplicity of challenges. The fuel prices are happening across the entire world. Food prices are up across the entire world. There's no country that is immune to these shocks that we're facing as a global community. But what we know is that the significance of focusing on cassava, which I will center my discussion around today, is because the significance of substituting wheat, which the continent of Africa, it's costing the continent billions of dollars. Substituting wheat with cassava has increased, it will increase opportunity, not only to reduce the cost, but also tap into this market that is worth $23 billion a year. The substitution can see Nigeria create up to 3 million jobs along the cassava value chain that cuts inefficiencies. In Nasarawa, where we are today, over 90% of people engaged in agriculture urgently need value addition solutions. But the agro value chain is not the only area where delivering solutions offers opportunities. Clean cooking to reduce indoor pollution is another. And this is a double tragedy, as I explained, because the focus on using charcoal caused our natural forests to be degraded. Up to 70% of Nigeria's households depend on charcoal, like many African countries across the entire African continent. And this dependence has been responsible for massive deforestation. In 2020 alone, the country lost over 97,000 acres of its forests. And if this rate continues like this, Nigeria will lose all its forests by 2047. That's the data that we have. But let me put this in perspective again. Despite all these challenges, they are disguised opportunities to tap, to drive transformational development for each and everyone. Nigeria is a pioneering leader, and please clap for yourself. It is a pioneering leader with the merit of enabling policies for enterprise development in the climate change arena. From the Nigeria Climate Change Act of 2021 to the updated nationally determined NDCs that set a target to cut emissions by up to 47% in just 8 years from today. As we speak today, Nigeria has a total of 19 pieces of laws and policies that unlock opportunities in the environment. In just last year, the Medium-Term National Development Plan 2021 to 2025, which focuses on economic growth, including human capital development, was unveiled to keep the country on track in driving the sustainable development goals. These must be appreciated. I've always said, if we do not appreciate progress, we cannot make progress. And we can always build on what we have. These policies create the enabling environment, because policy is the driver of change that can drive transformational development. Tapping, therefore, from this enabling environment, which we must do, can drive transformational climate actions for the collective benefit of all. For example, simple climate action solutions of waste recovery to fuel briquettes to replace charcoal can reduce the pressure on forests. And it's been shown across the continent from work that has been done, which I'm going to discuss what is happening in Nasarawa here. It's been shown to save an average household across the continent nearly 3 times more than charcoal. These increased savings are critical for buffering households' incomes to enhance socioeconomic resilience. These fuel briquettes stands to tap a market opportunity across Africa worth $20 billion. I am saying, giving all these aspects to show the opportunities that this center that is created at this university will offer. Because climatepreneurship may sound like a very big word, but it's about simple actions that turn challenges to opportunities, that turn environmental challenges to opportunities. And I'm saying this to paint a realistic picture of the merit of these opportunities. If we embrace climate action entrepreneurship across the entire country and across the entire continent and the world, to deliver solutions, we will see not only transformation in our economies, we'll see job creation for our youth, from Nasarawa to Kefi, to Azoba, together with the university here and the Emirates of Nasarawa, under the patronage of His Royal Highness, the Emir of Nasarawa. Young people right here in Nasarawa State have engaged, have been coordinating through the Entrepreneur Solutions, a youth climate action initiative. These young people, under the patronage of Emir of Nasarawa, His Royal Highness, these young people are showing that these opportunities can be tapped. These willing young people have retooled their skills. They have retooled their skills, and they are now turning challenges into opportunities. Devising solar dryers, developing these solar dryers to reduce post-harvest losses, to add value to cassava, and they're producing cassava flour. They're turning agricultural waste from cassava, from maize, to fuel briquettes that are replacing charcoal. This is important. This is something that will transform Africa and will showcase to the world that the solutions to the changing climate can actually be devised by our human capital, our young people, who are what I call the climate action army that needs to be tapped into. Through the patronage of the Emir of Nasarawa and his governance structure that goes all the way to the grassroots, a symbiotic collaboration between these young people and the community for uptake of these solutions has been developed. This is an example that will have to be copied across the continent. Within Nasarawa, within Shugu Market, on average, each farmer loses between 200 to 300,000 naira to post-harvest losses because of ineffective preservation. This translates to about 20% of the harvest, which at times could be imagined that they need for profitability. As an intervention, leveraging on the Ebafosa innovative volunteerism, youth actors installed and tested a large-scale solar dryer that has actually helped to not only reduce post-harvest losses, but is helping to showcase that the standard organization of Nigeria standard on cassava moisture content of 12%, this solar dryer is helping to achieve that. We are proud to have the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, as our partner, a partner with the United Nations Environment Program, a university that is renowned for excellence. Yes, you are. A university that has created the first ever Ebafosa Center of Excellence to drive climate action entrepreneurship. Thanks to the visionary leadership of the Vice Chancellor and your indefatigable staff, you have showcased to the entire world that transformational development can be driven, and your motto, knowledge for development, is showcasing that we can be able to drive every opportunity and tap it in challenges. ENSOC is the first ever university globally, to the best of my knowledge, to have adopted and integrated climate action and entrepreneurship into the curriculum. Nigeria. This is a big milestone to Africa. This is a big milestone to the entire world. And this is an opportunity that showcases that this modern curriculum, this center that is hosted at this university, will empower young people who are the sovereign capital, who already 20 young people have already been trained in inaugural class in the theory and practical aspects of clean cooking and briquette. And all these 20 young people will be guided to become climate action entrepreneurs. They'll be tapping into the billions of dollars that we talk about all the time, but sometimes we wait for the solutions to come elsewhere. The solutions will be coming from here. Nasarawa State University is that innovative center. Your Royal Highness, the Emir, has been the most gracious. The Emir of Nasarawa have been the most gracious, the most formidable supporter, and the patron of this work. Please give a round of applause to the Emir of Nasarawa. He opened his emirate as a free training and demonstration site for any young willing person in the entire emirate, and offered tireless wise counsel on making progress. He has provided the moral, social, and mental support, and he has been a true father figure to the entire progress we have made. Please, let's appreciate again the Royal Highness with a clap. As you can see, what I've mentioned here today, the key factors that we need to then ensure that this climatepreneurship become the norm and not the exception. I will leave you therefore with aspects that we need to take forward, which is in this global turmoil society in which we live in today, where a flood anywhere can displace people, where a drought can plunge millions of people into seeking food in places not even their own. We need then to think diversification. That's my first point to leave you with. We must diversify. The past 2 years have been unprecedented in recent years as far as global economic shocks are concerned. If there is any lesson that we learn during COVID that we must pick up, it is that while emergencies may be on a global scale, they do not affect everyone the same. I will repeat that while emergencies, whether they're droughts or floods or locusts as they happen in East Africa, or COVID, or any emergency that we can think of, they do not affect countries the same across the globe. Some countries will be affected differently, some people will be affected differently. This reality has taught us that it is our responsibility as global citizens, as African citizens, as Nigerian citizens, to also play our part in driving transformational environmental solutions. And that way we can be able to build a better tomorrow. The Climate Action Entrepreneurship that we have discussed today, the Climate Action Entrepreneurship Center that is opened here at Nasarawa State University, is an opportunity for each and every one of us to come and learn from it, to diversify our enterprising engagements. The most significant enabler of diversification is skills retooling. Each and every one of us, especially the young people, must learn new skills to be able to diversify into new areas. And today, the Climate Action Entrepreneurship Center offers you precisely that. And that takes me to the second point, which is, do not take the already existing enabling environment for granted. The Climate Change Act of 2021, the Nigerian Nationally Determined Contribution Revised, they present you the opportunity, especially the young people, to tap into and start to turn agricultural waste into briquettes, and start to learn how to fabricate a solar dryer. Those are market opportunities for you. The bulk of the implementation actions around the entire world, the implementation action of policies around the entire world, over the entire world, are actualized by everybody, ordinary people, private citizens, and the number one investor in any country, it's citizens through enterprise actions. We must take responsibility to identify a niche area of entrepreneurship from the Climate Change Act of 2021 of Nigeria and determine the incentives that are captured there and tap into that. That takes me to the third point. Data is everything. Data is everything. If you cannot be able to tap into data, you cannot be able to drive transformational policy making and transformational development. No matter how good, brilliant, or excellent ideas are, the only thing that moves them is success stories. Success story. I mentioned 257 million Africans who go to bed hungry. That's a statistic. But that statistic represents people. And it's not just a mere statistic. I mentioned $35 billion that is being used to import food. That's a statistic. But it represents missed opportunities. So why I'm bringing up this aspect of data here today is that verifiable proof of grand successes of climate action solutions is an opportunity that we must tap through driving transformational climatepreneurship solutions. This is the only premium we can make to ensure that we can attract targeted incentives. Because sometimes we hear that no incentives, no needed now, so how we go start for do the work? No, start and use the success stories to make a case that you need tax breaks. Use your success story to make the case that yes, you have turned agricultural waste into fuel briquettes, and you're showing that you're reducing the dependence on charcoal. Then you can then ask for tax incentives. We must act and use data to make informed decisions. And that takes me to the fourth point, which to me is the most important point that sometimes is ignored when I look across the entire African continent today. Sometimes we will talk about there's not enough finances. Sometimes we will talk about the hard aspects. But there is a missing point which I want to leave you with today, which is passion. And the passion I'm talking here is not passion fruit in the market that we go about. I'm talking about passion, that inner flame in each and every one of us that burns when we really want to do something. In driving transformational climate action solutions, in driving climatepreneurship, we need to develop purposeful passion. Passion is the fuel that moves ideas into real-life solutions. If you can see the way that Nasarawa State University, KP, has embraced the idea of climatepreneurship. Yes, it took passion. Yes, if you can see the way that the Emir of Nasarawa, his Royal Highness, has embraced the transformational environmental solutions dimension. Yes, it took passion. We must, each and every one of us, embrace passion With that passion, you throw ideas on any problem, or even money on every problem and waste it and end up with no result. We must all cultivate purposeful passion towards offering practical solutions that can then be able to address community challenges and unlock climatepreneurship opportunities. And this takes me to the last point. We must all become transformational values-based leaders. Leadership is personal responsibility. Leadership is personal responsibility. In the mid-1940s and mid-1950s and on to the early 1960s, as the clamor for self-determined rule reached fever pitch across the entire African continent, self-appointed men and women who espouse boldness, who espouse passion in them, in the struggle to liberate their people, these men and women were inspired to address the problem that was facing the African continent. Their every move was governed by a laser-sharp focus and clarity of vision to win independence for their people. They did not postpone this for a day for lack of resources. They did not say, if money no day, I no go do one. They were dedicated in what they wanted to do. They did not postpone this call for a day in the hope of elusive perfection. This is the foundation of values-based leadership that we must all identify with and champion to drive climate action and entrepreneurship. It is leadership that has been showcased here at the Nasarawa State University under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor and your entire academic fraternity. You have showcased values-based leadership, and each and every one of us should be able to tap that into every activity and action that we're engaging in. It is leadership premised on selflessness and taking personal responsibility to touch many lives by turning environmental challenges into opportunities. In the cycles of life, it happens that a unique challenge befalls one generation, which must be solved to guarantee the safe existence of future generations. Climate change is a challenge of our time. Yes, it is a challenge of our generation, and we can seize the opportunity through climatepreneurship. Thank you.
That lecture by Dr. Richard Munang. He actually went through many issues that concerns why we're here today. Please another applause for that